Hello students, today we're going to talk about something really important, our rights. Have you ever wondered why we have them and why it's so crucial that they are written down? Well, we're going to journey back in time to the French Revolution to look at a document that changed everything. Let's get started on the French Declaration of Rights.
So just imagine for a moment, a world with no written rules for the government. Who do you think holds all the power? Well, before the year 1789, this was pretty much the situation in France. The king had what we call absolute power. Basically, whatever the king said, that was the law. This meant ordinary people had almost no protection at all.
Now, the people of France, they were not happy with this system. They wanted a change, and so began the French Revolution. It was a huge fight to get rid of this unfair system and build a new government based on, fairness and freedom for everyone. The picture you see here, the storming of the Bastille prison, became this incredible symbol of the people's fight for their rights.
So, to make sure everyone understood what this new beginning was all about, the new government, called the National Assembly, wrote a very special document. And this document was called the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen.
The main point of this document was actually quite simple: to list out the basic rights that every single person should have. And in doing that, it brought a powerful new idea into the world, an idea called natural rights.
So, what exactly are natural rights? Think of it like this. You are born with dignity, and you are born with freedom. These are rights that belong to you just because you are a human being. They are called inalienable, which is a big word that just means that nobody, not a government, not even a king, can take these rights away from you.
Let's look at the very first point, Article 1. It says, men are born and remain free and equal in rights. Now you have to understand, in a society where your family name decided your whole life, this one sentence was absolutely revolutionary. It meant that your value as a person didn't come from being born into a rich family or a poor one.
And that brings us to another very important idea, equality before the law. This is a crucial point. It means the same laws should apply to everyone in the same way, whether you are a poor farmer or a wealthy noble. Nobody gets to be above the law. The Declaration also protected other important freedoms. For example, freedom of expression. This gave people the right to share their ideas, to say what they think, and to print their opinions without being afraid of getting punished by the government.
Now this next article, this one changed everything. Before, everyone believed that all power came from the king. But this article said, no, the real power, what they called sovereignty, comes from the people, from the nation itself, not from just one person.
But you might be wondering, how do they share all these big ideas with everyone? You have to remember, back in the 18th century, most people in France could not read or write. So, to get the message across, the revolutionaries used simple, powerful symbols that everyone could understand.
Take a look at this broken chain, for example. It was an image that everyone could understand immediately. Chains were for slaves, right? So a broken chain was a clear symbol of freedom. You didn't need any words to explain that.
This next symbol is a bundle of rods. It taught a very simple lesson. You see, one single rod is very easy to break. But if you put many rods together in a bundle, it becomes very strong. It was a picture to remind people that their strength was in staying united.
And this red cap, it's called a Phrygian cap. It had a very special meaning. In the old Roman times, it was a cap that was worn by a slave who had been given his freedom. So during the Revolution, it became a very popular and important symbol of liberty.
And here, you can see an eye inside a triangle with light shining from it. This eye stood for knowledge, and the light from the eye was driving away the clouds, which stood for ignorance. So all these symbols made sure that the message of the Declaration of freedom and reason could be understood by absolutely everyone.
Now, the words in the Declaration sound so wonderful and universal, don't they? It sounds like these rights were for every single person. But we have to look a little closer and ask a very important question. Were these rights really for everyone in France at that time?
The Declaration talks about the rights of man and citizen, but the key question is, who was actually considered a citizen? Let's look at the Constitution of 1791, which was the law that came after the Declaration, to see how it actually worked in practice.
And here we see a very big contradiction. You see, the new Constitution created two types of citizens, active and passive. Only men who were over 25 and paid a certain amount of taxes were called active citizens, and only they could vote. All the women and the poorer men were called passive citizens. They had no voting rights at all.
Now, of course, this did not go unnoticed. Brave women like Olympe de Gouges protested. She even wrote her own version called the Declaration of the Rights of Woman and Citizen to point out how unfair this was. This shows us that the Declaration was a beautiful idea, a powerful ideal, but it was not the complete reality for the people at that time.
So, even with all these problems, what is the final importance of this document? Why do we still study it so carefully today?
Well, its impact was just massive. The main ideas from the Declaration, liberty, equality, and power to the people, they traveled far beyond France. It became like a blueprint, inspiring people all around the world who are fighting for their own freedom and their own rights.
So, let's just quickly recap what we have learned. We learned that written rights are so important to protect us from absolute power. We learned about natural rights, like liberty and equality. We saw that the Declaration was a revolutionary idea, but it wasn't perfectly put into practice. And finally, we saw how its ideas have inspired people for centuries all over the globe.
And this leaves us with a very important question to think about. Can rights really be universal if they are not shared equally by everyone? The Declaration gave us a wonderful ideal to aim for, but the struggle to make that ideal a reality for every single person, well, that struggle is something that continues even today.